Hey man, here's something that'll sound dumb to most, but works like a damn spell. It's not about looks, not about money, not even about charm. It's something much colder, much more dangerous, and it's what I call the Thomas Shelby rule. You know the character, stoic, emotionally unreadable, deadly focused. Women don't just want him, they ache for him. But why? It's not because he says the right things, it's because he barely says anything at all. He walks into a room and everything slows down. His energy is so centered, so still, that it rattles the people who live in chaos. And that's the first key. He doesn't react, not to praise, not to anger, not even to love. He observes. And in a world of men who constantly seek approval, this kind of unshakable presence becomes an obsession for women because it's rare. And women are wired to chase what feels rare. Now here's the dumb part. Most men will laugh at, you don't win her over by giving more. You win her over by giving less. But what you do give has to be pure power. The Thomas Shelby rule is simple. Every word you say, every glance you give, every move you make, it must feel like it cost you something. You don't smile easily. You don't compliment carelessly. You don't overshare. Because once she realizes that your attention is valuable, she treats it like treasure. And the more she earns it, the more she wants it. This is not manipulation. This is presence. A man who knows his worth doesn't hand it out like candy. He makes people work to unlock it. And women love the unlocking, that slow unraveling, that tension, that mystery. The less she knows, the deeper she digs. The more you pull back, the more she leans in. Thomas Shelby doesn't chase, he builds, he commands, he leads. And when a woman enters his world, she either aligns with his direction or gets left behind. He doesn't scream, he doesn't beg, he doesn't convince. Because true power never explains itself. This is where most men lose, by trying to be liked, by trying to be safe. But women don't obsess over safe, they obsess over certainty. And Thomas Shelby is certain about who he is, what he's building, what he's willing to tolerate. That's the second rule. Never apologize for your standards. You think being flexible wins her heart. It doesn't. It wins you temporary approval. But then she tests you. And the moment she sees you bend to please her, the obsession dies. What kept her hooked was your spine, your focus, your refusal to sway. Because a man who won't bend for a woman is the man she wants to bend over backward for. There's something women can't resist about a man who could have anyone but chooses no one. A man who is wanted but not wanting. And Thomas Shelby carries that energy to the core. You want to become magnetic? Stop needing anything from her. Stop trying to impress her. Stop trying to earn her affection. When you operate from a place of zero emotional dependence, she'll feel it, and it will haunt her. She'll start chasing your validation just to feel like she matters. That's the paradox. By not needing her, you make her need you. That's why the Thomas Shelby rule is so dangerous. It flips the entire emotional power structure. Instead of trying to be everything she dreams of, you become the man she can't figure out, and the unknown is intoxicating. But let me be clear, this isn't about being cold for no reason. It's about having layers. Mystery without depth is just avoidance. What makes the Thomas Shelby rule work isn't just stoicism, it's substance. You must be building something. You must have purpose behind your silence, a mission behind your stare. If you're just quiet with nothing behind it, she'll see through it. But if she senses weight behind your stillness, she'll become addicted. Because now she's not just curious, she's invested. Every woman wants to feel like she's unlocking a riddle. And when she senses that there's more to you than meets the eye, she won't be able to stop peeling back the layers. She'll sell her soul to get close to the fire that doesn't burn just anyone. You've got to understand something deep about female psychology. Brother, women are not drawn to what's logical, they're drawn to what's felt. And when a man walks with quiet intensity, when he commands space without ever raising his voice, she doesn't just notice, she remembers. She replays it. She tells her friends. She tries to decode it. And every time she thinks she's figured him out, he reveals a new angle, a different depth, and it keeps her guessing. That's what keeps her hooked. Not drama, not chaos, but unpredictable certainty. She knows he's solid, but she doesn't know why. She knows he's powerful, but he's not flaunting it. That subtle contradiction drives her insane in the best way, because it feels like chasing gravity itself, real, weighty, ungraspable. You know what Thomas Shelby never does? explain himself. And that alone is enough to make most modern women spin in circles, because they're used to men justifying, clarifying, softening themselves to be understood. But when you live by the rule, you understand. Being understood is not the goal. Being respected, and women don't respect men who give them everything up front. They respect the man who lets her earn him, and every time she tries to pull you out of frame, out of focus, out of character, and you stay grounded, she feels that pull, like gravity dragging her back into your orbit. Because you're not reacting like the rest. You're responding like a man who already knows his value, and that is rare. The Thomas Shelby rule forces you to speak less and mean more. Your silence carries weight. Your glances have intent. Your presence is not just another body in the room. It's the room itself adjusting to you. And this flips the script on her instinct to lead emotionally. Instead of chasing excitement, she starts chasing stability. Instead of steering the emotional tone, she's scanning for your approval. This is where obsession begins. When you become the standard, she starts measuring other men against. You don't chase, but she feels you in her thoughts. You don't flatter, but your rare compliment replays louder than 100 likes on her phone. That's what mystique is. That's what restraint does. It creates an echo, and women chase echoes of men who leave imprints without trying. But here's where most men mess up. They fake it. They try to act like Thomas Shelby without living like Thomas Shelby, and women can smell that. They know when your silence is strength and when it's insecurity. They know when you're calm and when you're just afraid to express yourself. So don't play this game unless you're ready to be real. This isn't about mimicking a TV character. It's about embodying the discipline, the stillness, the internal power of a man who doesn't waver based on who's watching. You become so clear in your direction that you don't need to yell to be heard. You don't need to post to be seen. You don't need to pursue to be desired. That's what makes it powerful. Not the image, but the truth underneath it. The final part of the Thomas Shelby rule is this. You don't just attract women, you polarize them. Some will be intimidated. Some will call you emotionally unavailable. Some will say you're too cold, too serious, too hard to reach. And that's perfect, because the right ones, the rare ones, they won't just be intrigued, they'll be inspired. They'll rise to meet your energy. They'll feel safer in your mystery than they ever did in someone else's chaos. And those are the women worth having. Not the ones who want access to your softness immediately, but the ones who respect your fortress, knock with intention, and step inside with reverence. Because they don't want a man who plays games. They want a man who built the damn battlefield and walks off it untouched. There's this paradox women live with. They crave dominance, but demand softness. They'll scream for emotional availability, but melt in front of a man who shows none unless he chooses to. Why? Because when you make your emotional world scarce, it becomes valuable. Think about it. If you gave a woman roses every day, eventually she'd stop smelling them. But give her one, without a word, at the right moment, she'll hold on to that rose like it's sacred. That's the Thomas Shelby rule in action. Precision over volume. Women want to feel like they've cracked something deep inside you, something you haven't given to anyone else. So the less you give, the more she'll imagine. The more she imagines, the more emotionally invested she becomes. You want to know why women replay conversations with stoic men over and over? Because every word feels intentional. Every pause, every glance, every silence means something. And in a world full of loud men with empty hearts, the man who speaks from stillness is louder than all of them. That's the type of man she can't figure out, can't predict, can't control. And that's the type of man she obsesses over, because he's not moved by her mood swings. He doesn't need her validation. He's not trying to win her affection. He's walking forward, quietly, powerfully. And she either joins the mission or watches him vanish into greatness. That is what burns in her memory. That is what makes her soul ache with desire. The truth is, the Thomas Shelby rule works because it leverages a deep emotional imbalance in women. They are drawn to men who anchor them when their emotions make them feel untethered. When she's overwhelmed, the last thing she wants is another emotional mess trying to relate. She wants gravity. She wants stillness. She wants the man who can look her in the eye and hold the chaos without flinching. Not judge it, not fix it, just absorb it. And when you become that man, she doesn't just desire you, she becomes addicted to the safety your presence provides. She won't even be able to explain it. She'll say you have a vibe or an energy that she can't get enough of. That's because you've stopped speaking to her mind and started speaking to her nervous system. You know what's even more seductive than looks, money, or charm? Restraint. The ability to not act on impulse, to not tell her everything you feel, to not need her attention. That's power. Women are constantly testing to see if you'll crumble when denied their affection. They flirt, withdraw, praise you, criticize you, just to see if you'll break. But when you don't, when you're unshaken by her storms, she doesn't just admire you, she submits to that presence, because for her, it's rare, it's foreign, and it feels like peace. You become the still eye in her emotional hurricane, and she'll do anything to stay close to that stillness, even if she doesn't fully understand why. Look around, brother. Every guy is chasing her, liking her photos, drowning her in compliments, trying to stand out. But the one she notices, the one she can't ignore, it's the man who doesn't need her energy to feel like a man. That's the Keanu, the Thomas Shelby, the stoic king, who moves through life on his terms. He's not trying to be mysterious, he just is, because his life is full and his mission is bigger than her. And that's the dumb part most men overlook. It feels wrong to not engage, to not chase, to not explain yourself. But when you finally embrace it, when you stop trying to win her and start trying to win your life, that's when she begins to crave you more than oxygen. Here's the crazy part. When you embody this presence, you won't even have to say no to her. Your silence will say it louder. You'll notice how she starts adjusting her tone around you, being more careful with her words, more aware of your boundaries, and not because you raised your voice or threatened her, but because your calmness implies consequence. You're not reactive, but you're not soft either. You're simply unavailable to nonsense. And that scares her, but it also turns her on, because now you're not the man she can toy with emotionally. You're the man who knows himself, and a man like that is more dangerous than any tough guy who screams and throws punches. There's a moment in every woman's interaction with a high-value man where she realizes he's not afraid to lose me. That's the moment her attraction spikes through the roof, because now the power has shifted. You're no longer the one seeking approval, she is. And it creates a feedback loop in her mind that's impossible to silence. She wonders where you are, what you're thinking, who you're with. And it's not because you're playing games, but because you've mastered the game most men lose at detachment. You give her presence without pressure, attention without obsession, love without losing yourself. And now she's hooked, not by manipulation, but by the sheer discipline of your presence. You've probably been told to communicate more, open up, be more emotionally available. But here's what no one tells you. Emotional exposure without strength is weakness. If you open your heart before you've mastered your frame, you're giving her a gun and pointing it at your own head, because she won't know what to do with your softness unless it's balanced by solidity. The Thomas Shelby rule teaches you this. Stoic men aren't closed off. They're in control. They reveal their emotions in precise doses at the right time to the right woman, never as a plea, always as a gift. And that difference, that's what separates the man she uses from the man she respects. Now, here's something wild. When you master this calm, dominant energy, other men start reacting differently to you too. You'll notice fewer interruptions when you speak, less pushback, more respect, because the world senses something primal in you, something unshakable, and that aura bleeds into everything. Your career, your body language, your negotiations, your leadership. It's not just a dating tactic, it's a way of being. And ironically, the calmer you become, the more chaos will try to test you. Women especially will push buttons just to see if you're really that composed. But that's when you double down. You don't raise your voice, you don't flinch, you simply respond with clarity. And that right there makes you unforgettable. At the end of the day, the Thomas Shelby rule isn't about acting like a fictional character. It's about embodying the essence that makes him magnetic, unapologetic masculinity anchored in emotional control. You don't chase, you attract. You don't convince, you lead. You don't explain your worth, you demonstrate it through discipline. And that shift, though it might feel dumb or even unnatural at first, is the very thing that flips the script. It turns her confusion into curiosity, her arrogance into admiration, her indifference into obsession. Because while the world is full of men trying to get attention, You become the man whose absence is felt the loudest. A woman will never tell you this rule directly. She'll never say, "Be calm and cold like Thomas Shelby and I'll chase you forever." No. Instead, she'll test your emotions, your patience, your sense of worth. She'll try to mold you, provoke you, shake you, not because she wants to break you, but because she wants to feel your strength. When a woman feels your composure in the face of her storms, something primal lights up in her. She feels safe, but not in the traditional sense. She feels safe in your leadership. She feels safe knowing you won't be swayed by her moods, her drama, her highs or lows. And ironically, that's what makes her addicted to you, because she doesn't just see a man, she sees a foundation. You'll notice something fascinating once you start living by this rule. Women respect mystery far more than vulnerability. They're attracted to what they can't predict, what they can't control, and that's the brilliance of the silent masculine presence. It forces her to lean in. She starts thinking about you more, over-analyzing your words, dreaming about your thoughts, and all you did was stay grounded in silence. This doesn't mean being cold or emotionally distant. It means being selective with your energy. It means knowing that your aura does more than your words ever could. And when a woman senses that your time and your truth are valuable, she'll earn them. The modern dating world is flooded with noise, men oversharing, over-explaining, over-texting, over-chasing. But the man who holds back, who says less but means more, stands out like fire in darkness. That's the Thomas Shelby rule. You become the one she can't stop thinking about, not because you said the perfect pickup line, but because you said nothing when other men would have begged. Your restraint is power, your detachment is dominance, your discipline is desire. And when you move like this, women feel it in their soul. They don't just want you, they respect you. They admire the man who doesn't need them to feel complete. And ironically, that's what makes them want to be yours. The moment you stop trying to figure women out and instead focus on mastering yourself, everything changes. You realize that her affection, her loyalty, even her desire are byproducts of your energy, not the other way around. You stop needing her validation to feel valuable. You stop chasing approval and start attracting respect. And when a woman sees that you're completely centered in your mission, she either rises to meet your standard or fades into the background. Either way, you win. Because now you're living by a code that doesn't shift based on her moods, a code that commands respect without asking for it, a code that turns boys into men and men into legends. So yeah, maybe it sounds dumb to think that silence, calmness, and stoic presence could make women obsess. But here's the truth. They don't just obsess, they surrender to it. Because in a world full of noise, the man who says little but lives boldly is unforgettable. In a world of emotional chaos, the man who remains unfazed is a lighthouse. And in a sea of men trying too hard, the man who does less becomes more. That's the Thomas Shelby rule. That's your power. And once you tap into it, once you own that energy, she'll feel it in ways she can't explain, but will never want to escape.